So a handful of years back, I studied abroad at a Japanese high school. I chose to go to a Japanese high school because I had been studying Japanese for 4 years, and I wanted to find a way to challenge myself and to also improve my Japanese speaking ability. So after doing some Googling around, I found a program that would allow students from America to attend a Japanese high school over the summer. The timing worked out really well, since summer break in America starts around the same time that Japanese spring break ends and when they're just starting their school year. So after finding this program, I submitted my application, paid a large chunk of cash, praying that it wasn't a scam, and off I went to Japan. So after taking a few days just to get acclimated to the new environment, it was time for my first day of high school in Japan. Before going to school, I'd put on the school uniform, which was actually pretty snazzy. It was a white shirt with the school's name embroidered on it, a tie, a vest, and a blazer. And a blazer is basically just a heavy suit jacket. I pretty much looked like Joker from Persona, so I actually liked it quite a bit. The school outfit for girls was basically the same thing, except for instead of a tie, they had a bow tie, and instead of pants, they would wear a skirt. Girls could also wear a tie and pants as well if they wanted. We also got this cool bag that was kind of like a duffel bag and a backpack at the same time. It was more usable as a duffel though, to be honest, since because it was cube shaped, when you use it as a backpack, it was kind of uncomfortable, because the corners would dig into you at the bottom, but it worked well enough. The uniforms were nice since they looked good, and it meant that you didn't have to worry about what you wear every day. And even though this was my first time having to wear a tie on a daily basis, it was really easy. I had no problems. Stupid thing. But yeah, so after getting ready, I would walk to the train station from where I was living, which took about 15 minutes. Then I'd ride on a train for about an hour. And then after arriving at the final station, I'd have another 15-minute walk until I got to my school. And also, this was in the summer in Japan, and if you've never been in Japan during the summer, don't. It was like if you were in a sauna, inside of a volcano. It was really ridiculously hot. And you had to do that while wearing like a full sweater and like suit jacket, so it was not the most comfortable. But something that I wasn't expecting while I was walking to school was that between the station and the school, there was like a teacher waiting at every block, and they'd be greeting the students saying like konnichiwa every time a student passed by. And I guess this was to make sure that students made it safely to the school, and also so that they didn't cause too much of a commotion on their way to school. But because there were like hundreds of students coming from the train station at the same time, the teachers would be constantly saying like konnichiwa like every few seconds. So I noticed as I continued to walk, eventually the teacher's greeting would go from konnichiwa to konnichiwa to koncha. And then at some point they just started like saying like ta or something, and I was like,
What? What the f?
Anyway, for the first day of school, before classes began, we all gathered in the gymnasium. My school was a mixed high school and middle school combined, so there were about 2,000 people there in total. I was really nervous during this time because actually 2 days prior, I had been told that I had to give a speech in Japanese in front of the whole school. And I was like, but thankfully my Japanese was good enough at this point that I could whip up something half decent, and I even included a few jokes in my speech, which got everyone to laugh. At the end of my speech, I did one of the most Giga Chad things I've probably ever done in my life, and I asked for everyone to pose behind me for a selfie while I was standing up on stage. This was probably one of the coolest selfies I've ever taken in my life, and from that point on I was known as like the selfie guy at school. After that, it was time to go to class. Before entering the main school building, we were required to change our shoes into like indoor shoes, and the shoes were color-coded for what year you were in as well. Normally everyone got a special pair of indoor slip-on shoes to wear while they're in the school building, but since my feet were on the larger size by Japanese standards, they didn't actually have my shoe size. So until they could order a special pair of shoes in my size, I just ended up wearing some big neon blue pool flip-flops that I had brought with me. And so even though I was wearing the school uniform and everything, I definitely stood out. After I got inside the school building, I headed to my class. I actually have some real footage of walking in the hallways at the school, but due to the school and the program's policies, I can't show the actual footage, but I'll just play the audio so you can get an idea of what it was like. So this was a big moment for me. This was when I had finally introduced myself to the people who'd be my classmates for the next 3 months. My heart was racing and my hands were trembling, and the only saving grace was that I had seen so many high school anime that I had an idea of how it might go. And also, I was glad that I had studied hard for this moment as well. And thankfully, it's gotten a lot easier to study while watching your favorite shows at the same time thanks to today's sponsor, LingoPie. Through their website, there are many shows that you can choose from, and you can watch with subtitles in both your native language and your target language. And what's really great is that it works with Netflix as well. If you come across a word that you don't know, you can just hover over it and see the meaning. Click it and the word will be added to your personalized vocabulary list so you can review it later. There are lots of different ways you can review your word list, and something I especially appreciate is that they incorporate a spaced repetition system so you can memorize new vocabulary as efficiently as possible. They also have great features with beginners in mind, like having the romaji and furigana available in the subtitles for Japanese, or having pinyin also available for Chinese. And I really appreciate that you can easily switch between studying different languages simultaneously, and LingoPie will keep your word list separate and organized for each one. So if you'd like to try LingoPie for free, check the link in the description for a 7-day free trial and 73% off your annual plan if you like it. Thank you so much LingoPie for sponsoring this portion of the video. After entering the classroom, I was called up to the front by the teacher, and I was told to give my self-introduction as the new transfer student. Everyone was really excited to hear that I was from America, and when I had finished my introduction, the teacher said in Japanese, "Thank you very much, you can sit down over there." And I kid you not, my seat was the seat all the way in the back right next to the window. Which if you don't know, that's like the seat that every anime high school protagonist sits in, and I like 1000% felt anime protagonist as hell. Oh my goodness. Actually, while working on this video, I found this awesome Reddit post where someone analyzed over 400 anime and the vast majority of main characters sat in that exact spot. I just thought this was really interesting, and if you wanted any more statistical evidence for why I was the main character, there you go. But yeah, sitting in that seat was great because I could just sit there flipping my pencil around, feeling that cool main character energy. I don't think that seat was like specifically for transfer students or something like that, but I think it was just luck that I happened to be put there. But yeah, I was really enjoying it. Before class officially began, there was actually a section of time where the homeroom teacher would basically tell students what the school's spies saw them doing and how they needed to improve their behavior. I know it sounds kind of bizarre, but I swear that was legit what was happening. Yeah, I don't really know where they were getting these reports from. I guess other teachers who happened to be walking around the area and saw students they recognized doing something. And I guess because our school uniforms have our school name on it, I guess random people on the street might also have been reporting students. NANI? But yeah, it was a little strange. And also people weren't getting reported for like serious stuff. It was more like just people getting reported for like not buttoning the top button of their suit jacket properly, even when they were like an hour away from school and it was like 100 degrees out there, or like 40 degrees Celsius, I guess. How much is 40 degrees? Yeah, like 100, yeah, okay. So yeah, I don't really know what this was about, but it did freak me out a little bit since it seemed a little bit big brothery, if you know what I mean. But after doing some research, it seems like it's a pretty common practice in Japan, and I'm sure they have their own cultural reasons, but it was definitely something that stood out to me, having only gone to like American schools, so. But so once the teachers went over talking about all the reports that had come in, class officially began. This program I had signed up for was actually an experience program, meaning that I didn't actually have to do any of the schoolwork in my regular classes. The only class I needed to participate in was my Japanese language class, which they held especially for the very few foreign students who were at the school. But other than that, I could just hang out. I couldn't be on my phone though, because actually the school was very strict about a no phones policy. If a teacher saw you using your phone, or even just saw your phone at all, like even if it was on your desk and you weren't touching it or anything, they would confiscate it.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just can't get into it because they would never.
And lock it up in a bunch of clear lockers that they had in the teacher's room, which was legit like a phone jail. So instead, during class, I would just be doodling in my notebook or journaling about my experience so far. The only exception being English class. During English class, the teacher would actually ask me to go up in front of the class and read various passages in English, and then everyone would repeat after me. So after having a few classes, it was lunchtime. About 30% of the class would go to the cafeteria to eat lunch, and the remaining students would stay in the classroom and eat lunch they had brought from home or that they had bought on the way to school. If you didn't eat the food from the cafeteria, there weren't many like public benches or like public spaces where you could eat, so everyone just ate at their school desk during lunch. This also meant that you had a pretty tight-knit community with the other students in your class, because there weren't many opportunities to even interact with people outside of your class. For example, in between periods, instead of students moving to different classes depending on their schedule, the next period's teacher would just arrive in your classroom and teach you all at the same time, so you ended up spending a lot of time with people in your homeroom. But anyway, going back to lunch. My cafeteria in Japan was like the opposite of the ones I've experienced in America. Instead of the food being overpriced and tasting like cardboard, it was actually quite cheap, fresh, and really good. They had basically all of the traditional Japanese foods like ramen and udon. They also had Japanese curry, which is a very popular lunchtime meal. They had like omelet rice and tonkatsu. They also had karaage, which is like Japanese fried chicken, and it's so good. I definitely had that a lot. But yeah, cafeteria was really good. 10 out of 10, would recommend. After lunch, I would have Japanese class. But yeah, Japanese class wasn't super intensive since it was only about 40 minutes a day. And during the class, we mostly just spent time learning about the basic Japanese grammar or studying kanji, so it wasn't super intense to be honest. After that, we had a few more classes like PE. Something interesting was that PE was divided by gender. So all the guys learned judo, which is basically a class where you learn to flip people.
They ask you how you are, you just have to say that you're fine when you're not really fine, but you just
And all the girls learn kendo, which is a class where you basically learn to hit people with a big stick and scream a lot. After that, we had a few more classes, and then that was basically the end of the day. Although even after school had officially ended, most students would usually do clubs after school. This was a special time because, like I said before, there are not many opportunities to meet people outside of your homeroom. But this was one of the few exceptions where you could meet with like-minded people and make some new friends outside of your usual social circles. Sports clubs were especially popular. In my school, we had clubs like rugby, baseball, soccer, volleyball, track and field, table tennis, and also more judo and kendo if you really wanted. Outside of sports, they also had other clubs like cooking club, photography club, cheerleading club, band club, and more. I personally participated in table tennis. Alright, I've spent years training for this moment. Ow! Hey, I got it! Anyway, from my experience, it seemed that school clubs in Japan were a much bigger part of school life than in America. While they required a lot of commitment with most clubs meeting almost every day after school, it also seemed to be a time that everyone looked forward to as a way to de-stress from all the intense studying during the day. I saw a lot of students build close friendships bonding over shared interests, and the vibe of some clubs really seemed to be more of a family than that just of a school activity. Getting to experience high school life in Japan was such an amazing experience, and it felt so satisfying to put all the Japanese I'd been studying to use. If you happen to be studying a language or interested in studying, I really encourage you to pursue it, because I think it's one of the most rewarding ways to spend your time, and you never know just where it might take you. If you enjoyed this video and would like to see more in the future, please consider subscribing and/or supporting me on Patreon. As thanks, you'll get access to videos early, as well as the occasional behind-the-scenes content. Special thanks to An Ordinary Mango, as well as all my other amazing patrons and YouTube supporters for making videos like these possible. Thank you so much, and bye for now. Bye!